Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandana. Yamuna Tira Vanachahade. Yamuna Tira Vanachahade. Jaya Kishore Kishore Jaya Kishore 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 Jaya Kishore Kishore. Prabhupada 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 Jai Prabhupada. Give me my bag on the chair. Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Gaur Haribo. श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय। द्वैंग्रेज भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। ISKCON गुरु वृंद की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. So I'm very happy to be back to Chicago Kishore Kishori Temple to see all the liberated souls. All the conditioned souls are going for their work now, and all the liberated souls are gathered at Srimad Bhagavatam class. So, not many, but very powerful. So with all of your blessings, we will continue reading the 10th canto, 4th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is entitled The Atrocities of King Kamsa. Text 40 and 41 with the purport which is on the board. Om Gyanti Mirandasya Gyanandana Shokaya Chakshuranmilitam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutare Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanepyo Vaishnavepyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Vidai Mahapriyama Puro Vibur, Nirmaya Ksheti Yadmusupurusha Bhungte Gunan Sada Sasudasimaka, Ivan Krishista Bhagavan Vachansi Me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tasmat sarvatmana rajan brahmanan brahmavadina tapasvino yagya shilagas gaschahana havir dukkhaham. O king, we who are your adherents in all respects shall therefore kill the Vedic brahmanas, the persons engaged in offering sacrifices and austerities, and the cows that supply milk from which clarified butter is obtained for the ingredients of sacrifice. Text 41. Please chant responsibly. Vipragavascha vedascha. Vipragavascha vedascha. Tapasatyam damashama. Tapasatyam damashama. Shadhadaya titikshacha. Shadhadaya titikshacha. Kratavascha harestanu. Kratavascha harestanu. Vipragavascha vedascha. Tapas satyam damashama. Shadhadaya titikshacha. Kratavascha harestanu. Hare Krishna. Ladies, please. Vipragavascha vedascha. Yandamashama. Titikshacha. Vipragavascha vedascha. Satyam damashama. Vipraha, the Brahmanas, Gavacha, and the cows, Vedacha, and the Vedic knowledge, Tapaha, austerity, Satyam, truthfulness, Damaha, control of the senses, Shamaha, control of the mind, Shraddha, faith, Daya, mercy, Titiksha, tolerance, Cha, also, Kratavaha, Cha, as well as sacrifices, Hare Tanu are the different parts of the body of Lord Vishnu. Translation purported by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Brahmanas, the cows, Vedic knowledge, austerity, truthfulness, control of the mind and senses, faith, mercy, tolerance, and sacrifice are the different parts of the body of Lord Vishnu, and they are the paraphernalia for a godly civilization. Purport. When we offer our obeisances to the personality of Godhead, we say, Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagatitaya Krishnaya Gopindaya Namo Namaha. When Krishna comes to establish real perfection in the social order, he personally gives protection to the cows and the Brahmanas, Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. This is his first interest, because without protection of the Brahmanas and the cows, there can be no human civilization and no question of happy, peaceful life. So Srila Prabhupada explains that without Brahmanas and cows, there is no happy, godly civilization, because Brahmanas are giving Vedic knowledge and cows are giving milk, and ghee is derived from milk, and ghee is used for sacrifice. So without, and knowledge is theory and sacrifice is practice, so without theory and practice of Vedic culture, there is no godly civilization. So that's why Brahmanas and cows are most important for civilized society. Especially in this age, Kali Yuga, cows are being killed. Asuras therefore are always interested in killing the Brahmanas and cows. Especially in this age, Kali Yuga, cows are being killed all over the world, and as soon as there is movement to establish Brahminical civilization, people in general rebel. So that's a very interesting statement. It's very unfortunate state of affairs in the world today in terms of cow killing. Because of the ignorance, people have this misconception that, oh yes, you need beef for nourishment, and so even in some countries which used to have cow protection laws, of course they still have some in India. Luckily they're on the rise now, and in Cuba I think they still have some cow protection laws, but in Japan they also used to have cow protection. And in previous times, Japanese would not eat cow meat. It would be considered adharma, sinful. But now with the advent of Kali Yuga, they also started getting into beef habit, of course following the glorious country of America. Whatever America does, the whole world follows, right? And the way they make people eat beef is by subsidies. And I was shocked when the devotee, we were traveling from Tokyo to Osaka, and the devotee whom we traveled with, temple president, he showed me, we had the stopover to take a little break from the journey in one of those, what do you call it, resting places, and there was a cafeteria, and he showed me that the price of beef some preparation with beef is cheaper than the same amount of food on the dish, on the vegetarian dish, which is impossible, right? But it happens because the beef, they subsidize the beef. And so just with a very simple thing, they make people eat beef because it's cheaper, right? And so people save, they think, oh, we're saving money. And the government idiots, they think, we're helping people's health, giving them good nutrition. And so they're actually pushing beef ingredients into practically all the food, wherever they can, right? So this is gross ignorance, because there is no knowledge. Luckily, nowadays in India we have some educated leadership, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This was one of his promises at the election. He said, cow protection will be one of my main priorities. And it's interesting, I read his election speech, and he said one point was that Vaishnavas are the most important people on earth. So, to support Vaishnavas and to protect the cows. And he does that diligently. Of course, there were already kind of cow protection laws in India before, but still they were not in all states. In some states the slaughter was allowed, and so they would go around that law by taking cows from the protected state and transporting them into unprotected state and slaughtering them there and bringing the beef back to the original place and selling it there. And so Modi recognized that, and he made a very smart move. He introduced criminal prosecution for beef consumption, which of course excluded, and one of the places where he did that was Maharashtra, right? And so, which completely barred people from taking beef. And actually and one devotee, he is like aware of what's going on in the central government, and he shared very interesting pieces of information. He said that in the central government there is one Muslim committee which is in charge of economics, business committee. And they said cow protection and the laws restricting beef consumption are very good because cow is very good for economy, for economical development. So they supported it. But then one devotee's wife, she is studying in university, and in university in the class, as part of kind of curriculum discussion, they brought up this topic: how do you respond to the new legislation from the central government? Are you for it or against it? And all the students were Hindus, and every single student in the class, they said this is really bad, that why the government is interfering with the free choice. Let people eat whatever they want to eat. And she was the only one who said it was a good thing. So it's crazy that, this is Kali Yuga. Muslims are supporting cow protection and Hindus are going against it. What can you do? And, but luckily, Narendra Modi is still pushing through, despite of opposition, huge opposition from those people who are supposed to be the first and foremost supporters. They oppose it. And he introduced now in some states already, they have new government position, which is Minister of Cow Protection. And guess how does it sound in Hindi? The Gopal. This is the name of the position. What's your job? I'm Gopal in the government. So, for example, in Rajasthan, they introduced that. Gopal, they have their own Gopal in the government. And so, yeah, it's very interesting. Yes, Kali Yuga is on the rise, but because Lord Chaitanya's movement is on the rise as well, Prabhupada said there will be, once Krishna consciousness is introduced to human society, it will become polarized. In the same way as when you add lemon juice to the milk divides into whey and curd. So in the same way, when Krishna consciousness is added to this society, then society is polarizing. Some people who are inclined in the wrong way, they become very demoniac, and those people who are more sattvic, they become godly. Very interesting. And this is what we see. It's very confusing time we're living in, right? That from one hand, spirituality is on the rise. People, follow more healthy lifestyle, giving up bad habits and taking interest in spiritual development, yoga, meditation, even chanting of Hare Krishna mantra becomes so popular and everything. And from the other side, we see really ugly manifestations of Kali Yuga. This is because of the Sankirtan movement. The society became polarized. And of course, it's also part of Lord Chaitanya's master plan to help, the divine advance spiritually, and to help the demoniac degrade very quickly and clear out from the path of spiritual advancement, right? Either kill themselves or kill each other. Whichever ways it is faster, because some people, there is no chance to kind of influence them in the right way. So for them it's better to perish so that they don't, disturb the spiritual advancement. Unfortunately, but this is how it is. And actually, it's all very, very artificial, this beef consumption, because it takes so much more resources to produce beef than to produce, grains or vegetables, etc. And the only reason that beef is so popular and people are really indulging in it is the same. Actually, it's the same all over the planet, only because beef is subsidized. Otherwise, the price of the beef would be 5 times the present price, and most of the people, just for the sake of saving money, would be vegetarian, right? But because it's so heavily subsidized, people can afford it. And I can tell you the numbers, just to kind of, introduce you the reality of the situation. Every year in US alone, they pump $38 billion into beef subsidies, animal agriculture. Just to give you a comparison, they subsidize, vegetable production. They put 17 million. So just imagine 38 billion against 17 million, right? And so it's crazy, and many people understand it is crazy thing, not only us. Luckily, I think, my conviction is that this is also a side effect of the Sankirtan movement, that some people, they also want to protect cows, and they go vegetarian or vegan for this matter. And one man made a movie, Cowspiracy. I don't know how many of you saw that movie, but that movie had quite a powerful effect. And what's his name? Leonardo DiCaprio and sorry? Cowspiracy it's called. Like conspiracy, but it is cowspiracy, conspiracy against cows. It's a very smart name. Yes, Maharaj. They put millions of dollars into?
Yeah, the beef industry, when that was released, they did a whole campaign to discredit that movie.
Okay, yes, of course, because it destroys their business.
It was quite powerful.
Yeah.
If you've seen that, you get an eye-opening understanding of what.
Yes. And so, actually, Leonardo DiCaprio, famous Hollywood actor, joined hands with Richard Branson, who is the owner of the Virgin group of companies, very wealthy man, and they created an event that was 1.5 years ago, which happened in New York, and they were promoting global ban on beef, which is very noble attempt, and many people attended that event. Like I saw the YouTube clip, there were so many, like thousands of people, you wouldn't see the end of them. So the move towards plant-based diet, as they say, is very strong in the world. But the pushback is also very strong. It's like tensions are increasing now. And I was thinking that one thing which is missing in this whole movement for more natural diet and against beef is that they just take material considerations, like health and environment, etc., etc. But there are other considerations, especially spiritual considerations. Of course, people don't, to the most part, they don't understand the value, its value, and it might result in a serious clash. But I thought what we could or should contribute is help meat eaters to get off, meat and beef in a very simple way by giving them prasadam in massive quantity, because this is how it works for those of us who have been into the habit and then, that gave it up without any struggle whatsoever, because we've got the higher taste, right? And so in this struggle, the higher taste is missing, and so I was thinking if we would be a little bit more organized and together, we could actually support that campaign against beef by giving people positive alternative, right? Higher taste, prasadam. And expedite the situation in this way. In comparison to what it used to be in Prabhupada times, when, practically speaking, Hare Krishnas were practically the only vegetarians. Like in London, the Soho Street, Govinda's restaurant is the oldest still functioning vegetarian restaurant in this city. Just imagine that, right? That there was one small, but they shut it down very quickly. So there were no Govindas, there were no vegetarian restaurants in London at all in the 60s, just imagine. And nowadays, every one of you who's been to London know it very well that you can hardly find a street without at least one vegetarian restaurant, right? There are so many, like probably hundreds, if not thousands, right? So the things really changed comparing to what it was in Prabhupada times. And we could possibly take advantage of all these movements, people of goodwill, if we would enter into partnership with them and actually add the missing bit, the spiritual dimension, and educate and train people. Of course, for that we would have to be a little bit more organized ourselves. Which reminds me of the late Sridhar Maharaja's joke that if you hate organized religions, become Hare Krishna, because we're not organized at all. But yet, Lord Chaitanya does offer us all these opportunities all around, that we could have plenty, and we do have plenty of people who could support us in a massive way, and we could very powerfully contribute to the first purpose of ISKCON, which is achieving real unity and peace in the world. It's very satisfying, and I think not only for me but for many older devotees as well, that all the effort Srila Prabhupada put, and struggling alone and starting it all single-handedly, they're actually bearing fruits in a very substantial way, and not just in our society, but all over the planet. That people do read Prabhupada books, and even though they might not want to become devotees as such, but they take some principles from them and they implement these principles. They actually, like many people, they take at least, one or two principles from Prabhupada books and they make it into their life's mission. And so these are all potentially our allies, our friends, and we don't even need to make them into devotees. They could be, very effective where they are at the moment. And so I'm a great believer in networking. That it's a Sankirtan movement, and so the more people we can get on board with, trying to push in the same direction, the sooner we're going to have the golden age of Lord Chaitanya fully established and manifested. And of course, this is the most important country on the planet, because whatever happens in America is happening all over the world. And so if we get into the mainstream and work with those people, we could achieve massive changes. So anyway, we'll finish reading the purport. Srila Prabhupada keeps talking about Kali Yuga civilization. Thus they regard the Krishna consciousness movement as a form of quote-unquote brainwashing. Of course, Prabhupada was joking about it. He said, you can do the brainwashing if people have brain. Most people have no brain, so there is nothing to wash, right? And so he was saying that it's not actually brainwashing, it's brain-giving movement. How can such envious persons be happy in their godless civilization? The Supreme Personality of Godhead punishes them by keeping them in darkness birth after birth and pushing them lower and lower into wretched conditions of hellish life. The Krishna consciousness movement has started a Brahminical civilization, but especially when it is introduced in the Western countries, the asuras try to impede it in many ways. Nonetheless, we must push forward this movement tolerantly for the benefit of human society. Hare Krishna. I think I've spoken long enough, so if anyone has any comments, questions, suggestions, complaints, please, Maharaj.
Yeah, thank you. You presented that subject really interesting. I just wanted to just make a, point of information. One of the most popular vegetarian restaurants in New York is our restaurant as part of the Bhakti Center. It's become award-winning. It's one of the top restaurants in the entire city of New York. And New York has more than 3,000 vegetarian restaurants.
Wow.
That statistic was there years ago. It's increased since then. And this restaurant is expensive, but you can't get in. Every day it's packed, and it's all run by devotees. It's really a powerful way to. And then right below that, right above that, is our preaching center. So that combination, the restaurant, the preaching center, powerful way to preach. Those two things together. They go to the restaurant, and many of them gravitate and come to see what is, going on in the preaching center.
Yeah, I think Bhakti Center model is really smart.
It's really working.
Of course, Radhanath Maharaj's, wit is unmatching.
Yeah.
He's really visionary.
Yeah, he has a vision.
Anyone? Shri Guru Charana Padma Mataji.
Thank you. It's again so nice to hear from you. A couple things. I just when Maharaj when he was saying about the people really read Prabhupada books, and they might not become devotees, but they take a principle from the book and they make it into their life. Just one instant, I remembered recently. It was like Russian festival in Gitanagari, and Yogananda Prabhu was sharing that one Christian man came and he asked to learn more about Lord Chaitanya because he read about Lord Chaitanya in the books. So, yeah, I was thinking about it. We don't realize how so many people are reading the books, but may not become devotees, but they still really take this philosophy. So, yeah, it's actually very important to do book distribution. And I just also want to mention that we have friends close to our place in Wheeling who opened a vegan restaurant a couple years ago, and they try to offer make prasadam. It's organic, vegan, raw, and they have really spiritual purposes. So maybe we can also all help them. And actually, they want to spread. They're really capable of doing many restaurants like that. Maybe we can all help also. Yeah.
Yeah, the purple sprout is an amazing example of the principle of Ajagravriti. Prabhupada explained that instead of creating something on our own, we can use what's already there, which is very, very effective. And so Braj Mohan and Sri Guru, they did that. They made friends with these people. And these are very, very, you can say, enlightened people. They, are following very sattvic lifestyle, and they very friendly, and they're very, very happy, and very humble as well, and professional. And so they made friends with them, and they said, everything is perfect with what you do. The only missing bit, you have to offer this food to Krishna. And they started doing that because they are such a nice people. They just, were happy to follow whatever suggestions. And yesterday we had prasadam in their place, and not only it's just not even regular prasadam, but they were serving pancakes, stuffed pancakes, and the cook wrote on one pancake, he wrote Hare Krishna in Sanskrit, and on the with the cream, with the sauce, and on the other pancake he put Om. So I had Hare Krishna pancake, and Raj Mohan had Om pancake. So yeah, people are very enthusiastic if we give them guidance and support. Instead of doing everything on our own. We could find people who are doing things in line with what we're trying to do and give them guidance and support, and in this way we could make our job much easier and make these people into devotees as well.
Yeah, it was an article, Pragosh was talking about it last year at the ELM meeting, and he was saying that there was one reporter, he wrote this article saying that the way Hare Krishna is going and spreading around the world is coming from all angles, and one day we'll all wake up and we'll be Hare Krishnas. And we won't even know it.
Yes.
So that was Prabhupada's idea, is to get into all aspects of society and work from the inside. How, instead of trying to convince everybody, just... So that's a slower, but it's a more effective way to spread Krishna consciousness.
Yes, thank you.
And it's working. It's working in all areas now.
Yeah. I was thinking that, you know, the stage of informing people about Krishna conscious principles and values, we have done that quite successfully. That information we have spread, but now we require transformation, and transformation can only happen if we start establishing partnership with those people who are trying to, you know, at least push forward one principle from Prabhupada's books and make friends with them and help them, etc. And by association with devotees, not only they will be helping in our mission, but many of them would become devotees.
Yeah.
And even if they wouldn't become devotees, I was thinking sometimes, you know, it's more advantageous that someone does not become full-time devotee, but does more for the mission. And, you know, the prime example is, of course, George Harrison, who was in those circles where it was not really possible for him to follow strictly four regular principles, and that's why he never got initiated. But Prabhupada, rather than telling him to drop everything, drop the society, and become full-time devotee, he would actually prefer him to be in his position, because he knew in this way he could do much more valuable service to the movement.
We have that comedian in London, I think it's Russell Brand.
That's right.
Yeah. He, at the end of his show, he always says, Hare Krishna.
Yes. Yeah, Radhanath Maharaj is so brilliant about the strategy of friend raising for Krishna consciousness. Okay.
On the downside, McDonald's just opened a $250 million headquarters here in Chicago. They knocked down the Queen of Pajalpa's place, Oprah Winfrey, and they put up the McDonald's place.
Yes.
But I did notice in Ahmedabad, there's a huge tower, and it had McDonald's on top where there's an overpass, and Yasomati Nanda, they were able to get that taken down. But they only, I guess, serve chicken and lamb there in India at those McDonald's. But that's just, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, polarization, is happening, we can see that.
$250 million world headquarters, or United States headquarters, downtown Chicago. You know, it started here in 1955, McDonald's, and a little bit of history, you know, but things are changing.
And yeah, I also found out that they celebrated 50 years of their business, and they produced mock coin, special coin, memory coin. And I was thinking, you know, like, we should be doing that. We should be doing Hare Krishna coin for our 50th anniversary. So many things we're kind of missing.
Maharaj, you mentioned the missing link was what? What was that? The missing link. The missing link, you were saying at one point in your talk.
I can't even remember what I was talking about.
I think maybe Krishna or Krishna consciousness.
Oh yeah, missing link for all the work in goodness is, of course, Krishna.
Yeah.
Krishna is always missing link. So, like,
Right.
for all these vegetarian, vegan movements,
Yes.
the missing link is prasadam,
Yeah.
which provides positive alternative.
So our Balabhadra Prabhu, the former cow minister in ISKCON, he has his ISKCON project down in Alachua, Gainesville. So he's got very nice website and videos, and he always talks about how we say books are the basis, which he agrees with, of course, but specifically at his farm, bulls are the basis. Bulls are the basis. And he explains how the bull is really the missing link in the whole, even on the material eco level. Because we talk about cow protection, but then what about the male cow? It doesn't give milk, which is what people are focused on. For example, in the 1988 Ratha Yatra in New York City down Fifth Avenue, we were leading the parade from Gitanagri with our ox cart and our oxen. So as we were approaching Lord & Taylor, which is a big retailer, famous store, there was a big demonstration outside Lord & Taylor. They were, animal rights group was protesting that they were selling fur coats and mink and all this. And then we're coming down Fifth Avenue, we're approaching Lord & Taylor, and then right on cue, they must have spotted us, and the leader must have choreographed this, because right on cue, they all pivoted toward us, and they looked at us, who were leading the Ratha Yatra parade with our oxen, and they all did in unison, they said, "Shame, shame, shame, shame," just because we were working the bulls. So even though on the one hand they have this idea of non-violence, but they're completely oblivious of the utility of the male cow, the bull. So unwittingly, vegans who don't recognize that the cow and the bull are domestic animals, they actually thrive in kind human supervision, they're unwittingly giving ammunition to the other people who say, no, there's no use for this animal except to eat it. And Prabhupada told us at Gitanagri on his one visit, July 15th, 1976, he stayed over one night, and he was praising the devotees for working the bulls, but he was saying, please keep working the bulls, because if you stop working the bulls, you will want to eat them. Because their dharma is to work out, is to pull, is to plow and pull the carts like that. So that's really, even materially in our culture, that's the missing link in our cow protection. We don't work the bulls enough, what to speak of protecting the cows enough. So, and then that's such a great entry to Krishna culture too, because Krishna is a cowherd boy, and just like you say, the missing link is Krishna in the the food. So the missing link in the whole culture is the cows and the bulls, because they are what Varnashram turns around: cow protection, and ox power, and the deities, and offering everything for the pleasure of the deities. It's a complete reciprocal cycle, like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in his commentary to Gita 926, Patrang Pushpang, that the real full measure of this verse, if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it, is that you plant the seed with devotion, you cultivate the plant with devotion, you harvest the plant with devotion, you offer it to the deity with devotion, you cook, you offer the deity with devotion, you serve it with devotion, you honor it with devotion. This is Patrang Pushpang Palong Toyang. This is the full measure of it. So like you say, people have a sentiment for ecology or protecting the land, but only in Krishna consciousness do you get the complete package, which makes sense out of the whole thing. Otherwise, people can say, well, what about this? We have to kill the cows. There's no utility for them. So we have a lot to offer.
Thank you.
I hope I don't sound disrespectful or idealistic, but something I find it very, I don't know how to say it. We have one Gita on the East Coast, we have one Gita Nagari farm that can provide ahimsa milk. And as a temple, I really wish I can give ahimsa milk to the deities. And for me to transport 1 gallon of milk from, I worked it out with Gita Nagari, if I have to close to pay $24 just to get 1 gallon of milk. And that made me think that many of us, I'm a second generation devotee, I've been given the responsibility to take care of a temple that when Prabhupada was there, it was established. So there's so many factors, you know, you have to do Western preaching, you have to do congregation preaching. And sometimes I wonder why ISKCON, even though Prabhupada said that each temple is an independent, incorporated independently in America especially, but we don't think as one organization. We talk the philosophy, but we start new temples, but temples have to, practically they're on their own to figure out everything. And sometimes I feel, why can't we as an organization come up strategically, area-wise certain farms as an organization, but not as a temple. So that, because we have so much of money and talent within our organization, but because each center operates independently, it's all like, the talent cannot, at least I feel. So there is one Radhanath Swami who is extremely gifted and empowered. So you see that happening, but not all centers can have the benefit of somebody like Radhanath Swami's caliber to overlook projects. So what happens to those centers that were established by Prabhupada? And I see in my own congregation, there are a lot of talent and sincere devotees who are trying to do. But after a point, after you do for 10, 15 years, you're burnt out. So I would like to hear from all three of you, since you're here, like, you know.
Can I comment on something?
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course.
When I was preaching here many years ago, we had a preaching center in different places: Cleveland, Cincinnati, Oberlin, West Virginia. Where else? So many places. We had about 8 or 9 preaching centers, and what we did was, in order to facilitate each other's service, we had these monthly meetings where a representative from each of the preaching centers would come and explain what they're doing and what are the needs, and see if we could resource each other to fill in what was necessary. And if people had needed manpower, if it was available, someone would send manpower, or even some, you know, pecuniary donations just to help. In other words, we were looking in a broader sense as a series of temples that could work together as a group to facilitate each other's needs. It was a start, and we helped each other with different Rath Yatras and different festivals that were going on in different places. It kind of died out after a while because the organization was quite loose, but it was an attempt. And in that attempt, we did have some success in seeing how we could work together in a larger sphere, instead of, as you were mentioning, each temple just struggling on its own. So that can be started again. It takes some, you know, some liaison and some, you know, understanding on how to put it together. We have, like you said, we have so much resources. It's just organizing. The point you made, you know, we got everything except organization. We're learning how to do organization on different levels, but not enough to really put things together. Just like you mentioned in the Sunday feast, you got 3,000 congregational members. How about trying to see how much you can pull, either their resources, time, energy, services in different ways, by establishing different programs. When I was temple president in Cincinnati, if we had projects, we would define the projects, take photographs if necessary, put it up on the bulletin board, and ask people to contribute to whatever project they felt inclined to. So it's just a matter of tapping into the resources in an organized way. Yeah, that's the whole thing, really.
So here you have great resource, Chandramali Maharaj, man of great wisdom and experience, and yeah, he could help with that practically.
Thank you, Maharaj. It's very encouraging because ISKCON Chicago in the Midwest area is a big temple. So recently we started extending to Bloomington Center to support them. And recently one thing we started is it's news to a lot of devotees, but I'm sharing, so it gives hope. ISKCON Chicago is actually supporting youth-initiated programs, so that the youth of ISKCON can feel supported by our temple. So one of the things is the youth in America do TSI, it's called the Sangha Initiative, where all the youth from all over America, they get together, they do camps. And there's also for the younger ones from the age of 10 to 13, they have Camp Ignite. That's also serves. So we kind of sponsor, and then we also sponsor the participation for few children who can't come for these camps in an attempt for something that you were saying, instead of thinking as just one center, but as having a bigger picture. So we hope that by your blessings, and all the three of you, with your blessings, we can grow in that, and it doesn't fizzle out.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu?
You have something to share?
Prabhu wanted to say something for quite some time.
Thank you, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Thank you.
I have a question, but a comment, like a prelude. You were mentioning food in the mode of goodness, and we hear in the Bhagavatam that there's basically two types of foods. I was actually meditating on this topic recently, just today actually. Food for the body and food for the mind. So from a comparative point of view, we see sometimes it's, in one sense, easy to feed our body with foods in the mode of goodness. But it's not so easy to feed our mind with thoughts in the mode of goodness, as Arjuna says in chapter 6. So my question is that sometimes when we pray to Krishna, we may not pray for material things. Oh, Krishna, give me this car, give me this. But sometimes we pray to Krishna, please give me the ability to think good thoughts. And Krishna sometimes doesn't give that. So then we lose our faith in Krishna, and like, are you in control or what? Rishikesh? I'm not sure about that. So how does a person to maintain their faith or what is the lesson to be learned when we pray to Krishna, not for material things? I'm not praying to you. So what can a person do to maintain their Krishna consciousness when they're not getting that, or appears to receiving that reciprocation from Krishna?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, it reminds me of the story of one man who was living in the village, and there was a flood in the village, and everyone was trying to save themselves by going on the roof. And so then the boat, the lifeboat came, and the boatman said, everyone can get into the boat, you'll be saved. Everyone got into the boat except one man. He said, I'm praying to God, I'm Krishna's devotee, so Krishna will save me. And then the boat went away, and then the helicopter came, and the pilot said, get into the helicopter, we'll save you. But he said, I don't need you, Krishna will save me, I'm praying to him. And so the water level rose, and that man got drowned. And of course, because he was thinking of Krishna, he went to the spiritual world. But then the first question he had to Krishna, like, I was not praying to, die. I was praying to be saved. So why didn't you save me? And Krishna's response was, but who sent you the boat and who sent you the helicopter? So I figured out you're not interested. So, you know, the idea behind is that, you know, we might pray for things, but are we doing our part, right? Because, yeah, sometimes we have these kind of, you know, artificial ideas how things supposed to happen, and we miss on the very obvious things which are right in front of us, like in this story of acres of diamonds, which some of you might be familiar with, how the farmer in, I think it was in South Africa, he went to look for diamonds, and he sold his farm, and he never found anything, and then he died. He actually committed suicide out of frustration, jumping in the ocean. But then the other man who bought this farm, he discovered that this farm was actually stood on the diamond mine itself. So he went to look for diamonds somewhere else, selling his diamond farm, and because of his ignorance, he couldn't realize that he's living on the diamond mine. And so many times it is happening like that in Krishna consciousness, that we are praying for something, but then, you know, Krishna is giving us the opportunities, but because of our whatever lack of attention, I think oftentimes we're missing these opportunities. And in that sense, you know, we should do our part in order to help Krishna to fulfill our desires. Like one man, when he conducts his self-help courses, he says, how many of you want a $100 bill? So I have this $100 bill here in my hand. How many of you want it? And so people raise their hands, but he says, no, I don't see that you really want it. Until one of the crowd comes forward and takes the $100 bill out of his hand. He says, okay, this man really wanted it. But those who raised the hand, they didn't really want it, because, okay, they wanted the money, but they wanted, you know, money come to them, right? So that's the thing, that many times we pray to Krishna, but we don't do our part, and so, you know, what Krishna can do. And in that sense, it's really important to take into consideration the statement from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna repeats twice in the same words. And the statement is, Shriyan Swadharma Vigunan Paradharma Svanushthitat, that it's far better to discharge your duties, even though imperfectly, than somebody else's duties perfectly. Which means if we act according to our nature in Krishna consciousness, that in itself will help us to be always focused on Krishna, right? Anyway,
thank you.
But anyway,
Prabhupada said that we're suffering from poor fund of knowledge and insufficient brain substance.
And thank you, Maharaj, for the class. And in Colombia, in Spanish, we have an aphorism that says, ayúdate que Dios te ayudará. Help yourself, that God will help you.
Yes, thank you. Maharaj wanted to say something also.
Just a small quote from Prabhupada. First deserve, then desire. You might desire something, but you don't deserve it. Or you don't need it, or you'll get it in due course of time, not when you want it. So there's so many factors when we make a prayer. It's not like Krishna is our order supplier. We can just push the prayer button and everything comes.
Prayer button, I like it. I'll use it for future classes.
Like, I think we discussed today how so much Krishna is helping to spread the movement, and we have a lot of resources, and one of the most important like is organization. And like we know how in the world people go spend so much money to learn to become good businessmen, become good managers, MBA, and like we've been liking this professionalism in management in the temples and in general, and we all know like how it doesn't matter how much resources the country has, but it depends so much like from the president of his skills to organize, to use. So like looks like it's really like important to bring professionalism in management, and like really grateful for your school that you're starting to do that, to bring the best teachers and leaders to really teach leaders. It's really looks like very important.
Yeah, thank you. This is the effort to support individual devotees who are professionals and who can do something. And yes, last year we had the first graduation from the school, and the graduates are doing amazing things. I mean, we try to encourage them to do big things, but at the end, the kind of projects they came up with, even the faculty members were aghast. They couldn't believe it, you know, the scale they attempted, and it's already happening. Like in the next state, Michigan, you know, very smart couple, Neva Madhav and Palguni Radhika, you know, they both run separate huge projects. One project is for tackling addictions with spiritual technology. This is Deva Madhav Prabhu is doing, and he already got a separate building for that. Someone just, you know, supported him financially. So this is what's happening. If you do something big, there will be always plenty of people who want to support you in all ways. And she's doing native spirituality revival because we've discovered that there was so many parallel spiritual practices in Native American and Bhakti traditions, and so we're encouraged her to popularize native, we can say native Bhakti, which has huge interest, you know, of course, Native American tradition in this country, and it's really important.
I was following your program in Mayapur, and I really appreciate the program. But one request is that some of the devotees I talk to, not everybody is a full-time devotee, you know, to take off and come and spend few weeks there. There are practical challenges, even though devotees want to come. And I want to send devotees because the training is really very relevant for our movement. But you're very creative, so if you can come up with some creative ideas where those managers who are not like they're dedicated, but they have full-time jobs here and can't come and be in Mayapur, what happens to those leaders if something can be done for them?
Yeah, for the future, few devotees were saying that we require these kind of schools in different locations, and of course at least one school in US, which would be easier, of course, but I guess this is for the future, because I mean we need at least one devotee who would help to organize that in this country, and then yeah, it should be easier. Online courses. We got many requests for online education, but for now we don't want to go down that route, because one of the main idea of the course is to establish network and between the leaders, that both graduates and faculty members supporting each other and helping each other in project development, and that can only happen when people live together and they develop very close bond of friendship and camaraderie, which is not really possible online so much. For this reason, we wanted to do it physically. Maharaj.
After listening to everything and just kind of like seeing what's going on around ISKCON. There's nothing that we need to invent. Everything is there. There's so many programs of success all around the world in different areas. Just like our Avanti schools in London, and I was in Canada. Went for the Rath Yatra. Husband and wife. They've been preaching for years. Now they started a school for kids, and it's getting supported by the government, subsidized by the government. So we got educational programs, we got outreach programs, we got, you know, training. We got, just go around the world, you'll find it everywhere. You just got to see it, copy it, or apply it to where we are. We got farm projects, we got preaching centers, we got restaurants, we got schools, we got various types of educational. It's happening everywhere in our society. It's just that it's in different spots in different places, that's all.
Yeah.
We don't have to invent anything. It's all you have to do is just study what's happening and see how you can apply it to wherever you are. It's already happening. Our society is developing nicely in many areas, really taking off.
Yeah, the only thing I really feel is missing is scale. That you know, so many things are happening, but they're really happening on minuscule scale.
Yeah.
But you know, if devotees, you know, that it's interesting. Kavichandra Maharaj shared that article with me about spiritual entrepreneurship.
Spiritual
entrepreneurship. Entrepreneur. Yeah, entrepreneur. Yeah. And the first point in there, if you want to be spiritual entrepreneur, think big. And I think, you know, it's really lacking in our society. And Prabhupada was so successful because this was his thing. He would say that I could never think small. And that's why he succeeded so big. And we're trying to encourage the devotees to, you know, broaden your scale for God's sake. You know, stop thinking about just, you know, our little world and think of the big world and think what can you do for the big world. And of course, we're taking those professionals who have the capacity of doing big things.
Good point.
And America is for doing big things. You know, this is the trademark of this country, right? Everything is so big. And I think American devotees should be also doing huge things for Srila Prabhupada. That's your nature. You have the capacity. You just need to recognize that and use it. All right, so I think we should stop here. Just very last thing I wanted to say, it just will take 1 minute. Probably some of you wondered who is on this bag. I found out a few months ago that this is the first object of religious worship on the planet Earth. And he was found in Germany, and they call him the Lion Man. So Lion Man, and he is 40,000 years old. And funny enough, he was found in the cave next to the town, German town, Nersingen. And many people say that, you know, like, because the entire scientific world is completely puzzled, you know, like, who is the Lion Man? Why is, you know, why is he half man, half lion? But some people, some of them say, come on, in India, people been worshipping Lion Man forever. So and they draw parallels between German Lion Man and Nrsingadev. 40,000 years old, yes. And this bag is from British Museum. He was giving his darshan in British Museum for a while. Now he's back to Germany. You know, if you Google Lion Man, he will come up straight away. He's very famous. So another evidence for Vedic culture and Krishna consciousness all over the planet. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much for your kind attention and enthusiastic participation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.